Good evening. This is the April 10th, 2013 meeting of the Finance Committee, it being 7 o'clock. Our agenda tonight, we have one transfer this evening. We're going to be looking at 5 budgets this evening. The order we're going to take them in, which is a little different than what have been presented, is we'll be looking at Youth Commission, then the Bay Path budget, then we'll look at the legal, pension and benefits, and solid waste budgets. We may hold on the solid waste budget. That's to be discussed on that. I'd also like to note that our CFO, Ed Kazanovich, will be running late today. He was pulled into a meeting to help one of the subcommittees on the middle school project, just to explain the funding mechanism for the proposed middle school project. So he's going to be running a little late, probably not here till 7:30. So our first order of business will be the department transfer, and we've got Wayne Bloomquist here. Wayne, thanks for your time coming up. This is a cemetery department transfer. Excuse me. Basically, we're going to be transferring several smaller balances into the heating oil account. Approximately, is it close to $900, Wayne, going in there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Close to $900 in total transfers?
It was about $1,000.
About $1,000? Okay.
Yeah. We were about $1,000 short. We had an automatic oil fill delivery at the cemetery and didn't have quite enough, so we're taking from these other accounts that we can take from.
Okay. So my expectation is if we can finally get out of the 30s and 40s, we should be pretty good on heating oil till sometime very late, hopefully next fall.
That's hopefully.
All right, I like the way you think. Okay. Thanks, Wayne. I'll accept a motion to take these 4 transfers as one. They're all going to the heating oil account.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. The first to transfer from the water account will be, no pun intended, draining that budget. It's $150. The second account we're pulling from is the motor vehicle repair account. Amount requested $410. That'll leave just over $300 left in that account. We'll be pulling $300 from the gas budget, leaving about $1,450. And the final transfer will be from the motor oil budget. We'll be emptying that account also. So that's approximately $1,000. Any questions or comments from the board on this? Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Wayne, all set. Thanks for your time tonight.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, we're going to get right into our fiscal 14 budget deliberations. First one this evening will be Youth Commission. We've got Norm Flash here. Norm, thanks for coming up tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me. I just wanted to thank the Finance Committee. I know you're going to keep it level funded for this year, which the Auburn Youth and Family Services really does appreciate being able to do that. Their task has always been greater. Their fundraising seems to, with any organizations now, they seem to have tailed off, and they're trying to do different things to find new ways to raise revenue. And what we do is the $110,000, I believe, that we have budgeted. We used to have activities that we did as the Auburn Youth Commission. We've pretty much curtailed all of those over the last 3 years, just to give all of our budget to provide for Auburn Youth and Family Services for the services they provide for the town by the contract that we have with them. They have counseling at the high school, middle school, tutoring. They provide, it's like a confidence building class for girls in the middle school. There's a care program where they're working together with the police. And I just want to kind of make you aware that they keep a level funded, and they actually have worked within that contract for the last 4 years that I know of. For the last 3 at least, the service they provide that they have the contract for, they've actually gone over budget. Probably, I think they're close to $25,000 over this year for the services that they provided, above and beyond what they do. They will not turn anybody away. They will, they gladly take what the 110, and then anything beyond that, they use their other means to raise revenue to pay and offset those costs. I know some of the things you talk about, some of the counseling, other things that happen with that, they are covered. They can't divulge where it goes, but they're covered by insurances. So if somebody's coming in there and they have medical insurance, and some of the counseling can be taken care of that. But a lot of the services they provide, based on what we have contracted services for, the 110 does not or has not met that requirement in the last 3 years. That's why we've turned all of our budget to them. And, but they continue to work with it. We continue to try to help them. The one big fundraiser they have is Dancing with the Stars, but they do other things all the time. As far as grants, they always put in for any grants that may be available, but they're actually starting to dry up too. So it makes it a little bit tougher. I did talk to Sally, and she wants to thank you for at least keeping it at the level that it's at, because any cuts just, drastically affects what they do. So, I want to let you know that we finally we haven't met for a little while, and we've had some new members, and I've contacted them, and we're going to get together within the next week or so to try to move forward and see if we can cut some of those services, if there's ways that we can improve what happens with that. So we're going to be looking at that over the next few weeks and seeing where we can work with that with the amount that we have. And that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you, Norm. Just to add to that, I know several years ago now, I believe we had actually cut funding. I think we had been up at $120-some-odd-thousand. And I know that the then police chief and school superintendent, when they were up for their own budgets, actually had chimed in and warned our committee, basically saying, hey, look, this is part of the safety net for the youth of the town, and any cuts that we would consider, and we're not considering any, to the Youth Commission, are going to add an additional burden to both the school staff and to the police at least, and I'm probably missing a couple other social nets within town that kind of help this particular area of need within Auburn as a community. So it's very important anyways that we continue to fund this and support it as best we can.
And, I mean, they always continually, Sally says, they always work with the schools and with the police to try to find different ways, within those organizations to see what they can do to work it out as far as they can use some college students maybe to come in and help with the tutoring. That offsets it a little bit with volunteers, and there's ways that they always try to work with it, but, you want to think, you think, and everybody says the economy is getting better and doing whatever. When the economy went bad, and it still continues, the people that actually need the services that Auburn Youth and Family Services provided has increased in the last 4 years, and it's still even increasing this year. There's more and more people that are out there and finding the need for some of the services that they provide. So,
okay, appreciate those comments.
All right.
Any comments or questions from the board on this? Okay, we have a town manager recommended budget which is level funded at $110,000. As Mr. LaFlash pointed out, it's been at least 4 years that we've level funded this budget, so we have supported it on a level basis. Yes, several years ago it had been up, I think, $122,000 or $123,000. But this is the level of support that the town manager is requesting at this point in time. So do we have a motion on this?
Motion to recommend the town manager recommendation of $110,000.
Second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate you coming up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. So this time we're going to take a look at the Bay Path budget. At the risk of being a little awkward here, I did not ask John LaFletch to come up here. John occasionally comes up where, I don't want to say we're exactly stuck with the budget that's provided. It is the governor's budget, so these numbers may change. And we just thought at this point in time, that I think just to review some of the numbers that highlight it, maybe just the best off. If we have a need to reopen this, we obviously have that flexibility. Let me read the budget numbers, and then I'd like to just go over a couple of highlights that I saw on it. I know Ed isn't here to talk to any of these, and I'm not too sure how deep he's had a chance to look into the budget anyways. The budget requested for Auburn for our portion of supporting Bay Path is $850,215. That's a 4.73% increase over the fiscal 13 appropriation, or an increase of approximately $38,400. As I'm going through this, and I spoke with Ed a little earlier today, the biggest component of that increase, if I saw it correctly, is actually the I'll call it the new debt service on the renovation that is going to be started on the project. So it is skewing that number somewhat, but it does include debt service just the way, as we discussed earlier, things were being financed up there, which is through, I guess, levy and not through a debt exclusion, as we were, I guess, mistakenly led to believe was going to happen. Let me just mention a couple of highlights of the numbers, and it is a very detailed budget that they gave us to their credit on this. It looks like there's some shifting going around in terms of salaries for the superintendent and the business manager. That's to be expected with the change in leadership up there, with John being promoted and a new business manager being added. I think that's Dean Ikabuchi. Other highlights of increased expenses, there are a few salary expenses that are increased with some offsets. Vocational aids, I noticed they reduced their textbooks, but it is a positive number. Otherwise, I would have dragged John in here to explain that. Transportation costs continue to increase. Electricity went down significantly, 72,000 to 20%. I'm not too sure what that's related to. So there was a savings there. Medical insurance continues to increase. That's up 8%, or $161,000. The debt service, which is a new account, I did finally find it, my apologies. Debt and interest, $476,594. That's over in their overall budget. Their grand total increase in their budget overall, and once again, Auburn is one of 12 communities now, I think, that are part of it, certainly more than 10. Their budget has increased by $982,000. Now, that's 5.7%, but $476,600 is the debt service. So it's about a $500,000 increase in their budget on last year's budget of $17.2 million. Okay, I've thrown some numbers around. I feel like former Chair Bill Westland with these numbers here, so at that point I'll shut up and I'll ask for any comments, questions. Quite a bit of statistics that were provided to us on this, and I just didn't know if anyone had a chance to kind of drill in with some questions, comments. Chris?
Just a comment. This budget, if I recall, last year shrunk, didn't it? Didn't we have a?
I believe what happened was there was a late adjustment to our piece of the budget on it that reduced Auburn's portion at the end. I'm not positive that it actually went down.
It did go down.
Total budget?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Was there some proceeds from the bond lawsuit?
Well, that ended
There was a one-time recovery, that was a couple of years ago.
years ago.
Well, as I'm looking at the three-year history anyways, assuming that the fiscal 13 appropriation is accurate, that might have come off a little bit. That was still up $35,000 over fiscal 12, so it might have been flat last year versus the prior year, but It went down significantly from fiscal 10 to fiscal 11, as you can see.
No, I guess my comment was, when we voted on the original Bay Path budget, the final budget was less than what we originally voted. It was modified in the fall town meeting.
Yes, it was. I don't know if it was modified to be lower than the year before.
Because I think that we voted based on the governor's numbers, and obviously the governor's numbers
Right.
change.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, House came out with their budget this afternoon,
Right.
so I fully expect this to change, too.
Okay. Excuse me. Actually, Ed had said he was hoping to have some additional numbers for us tonight if he had the opportunity to get them by the time he got here. So I don't see any changes that we'll be making to this. It'd be great if we had an updated and final number before town meeting, but I don't expect that to happen. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay. So once again, we've got budget requested through the town manager of $850,215. Once again, this is Auburn's share of Bay Path's overall budget. Do I have a motion regarding this?
Motion to recommend.
Have a second?
Second.
Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
So voted. Okay, we've got 3 budgets left, and I believe because Jim Bonifilio couldn't make it tonight, he's under the weather, and he represents us on the Solid Waste Committee, I think we were going to defer on that, and Ed was in agreement on it. I don't see him being here for another 10 or 15 minutes. What I would like to do, because we also have CIP in terms of discussion on here, and I know some of it's going to be questions for Ed, is just to open the CIP discussion up now, and we don't need to vote on it at the moment, in terms of if there are any questions that have come up on that at this point in time.
I didn't
Yeah.
plan.
Okay.
So Kevin, are we holding legal, solid waste, and pensions and benefits, all 3?
We're going to hold them at least till Ed gets here. I mean, I had a question on legal. I hope we all did. Some of the numbers moved around a little bit. I don't see us being in a position to make a decision on that without getting an explanation on that. I believe there's some changes. We were originally talking about an adjustment to solid waste in terms of, we had a shortfall, I think, in our trash collection, and there was some discussion within the solid waste committee on whether there should be an increase in the fee this year or not, which according to Ed, I think was going to be a significant number on a percentage basis increase. So he said he had some updated information on that. One thing I'd like to make of note, and not that we'll vote on it right now, is I did some math for just looking at CIP for fiscal 15, which is 2 years down the road, that if there's, there will probably be some reconsideration within the school portion of CIP if the middle school project does pass, and obviously subject to negotiation, but at this point in time, the fiscal 15 budget has, I think I had mentioned before, over $500,000 in improvements or improvement expense with a couple of the elementary schools that were, I'll say, unofficially targeted for possibly being taken offline, as the Dr. Brunel would say. This is all subject to what the school committee wants to propose too, but it looks like there's quite a bit of, I'll say, financed expense, because that's what we've been doing with CIP, in terms of moving from that, and obviously we'll be financing the building of the school if that should pass. So that will certainly be an offset to the middle school expense in terms of reduced CIP, which for fiscal 15 right now is at nearly 2.3 million. Taking $500,000 off is probably about 1.75 million. I did ask Ed if we could take a hard look at this to see if there are any other items on here that we could possibly adjust or revisit in terms of maybe putting back on operating budget versus being on the CIP and subject to part of our financed budget. So hopefully we'll have some additional information on that. Any further comments to that at this point? Okay, there being none, I'll tell you what we'll do. If we could, Chris, can we put a recess on till 7:35? Give Ed a chance to get here, because at this point, I really don't want to listen to myself talk anymore. Okay. All right, 7:35, we'll be back. Thank you. We got to vote on it? And we want to vote on it?
Motion to take a recess.
To recess, 7:35? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Great, welcome back. Sorry for the delay. We have our town CFO back with us, so we can actually have some quality conversation now. Well, relatively speaking anyways. Ed, can we go to the legal budget first?
After reserve, I think.
No.
Before.
Here it is. Okay, the former legal budget, now called the law budget or law department. We have a town manager recommended amount of $135,000. This is a three-line account. General counsel requested is $75,000, which is flat funded. Negotiator at $50,000, which is flat funded. And special litigation at $10,000 is flat funded. Our three-year average on the general counsel is up closer to $90,000. And Ed, if I could open that up to you on expectations of use of this, and if we think we're fully funded at this point in time.
Sure. If you look at the three-year average, it appears to be low, but I can tell you that town manager is committed to, at least with the 11 unions currently negotiating with, doing it without the attorneys as best as we can. I can tell you, in the past, the attorneys were at the table for all bargaining sessions. They normally run anywhere, it's a minimum of 2 hours each session. You work in travel time, back and forth, that's another hour. You talk 3 hours per session, probably average of 7 sessions per bargaining group. 7 times 11 is 77 times probably $500 per each session. So we expect to save some substantial money, at least for Labor Council. Certainly we recognize that they may be required to assist us in certain situations, and also assist us in putting together a total integrated contract once it's been approved by the union. So we believe that we can live within this number. I can tell you on general counsel matters, we have a couple of lawsuits that are currently in Superior Court. They are ongoing. At what point they will be resolved, we don't know, so that could have an impact on the FY14 budget as well. And if any other matters come up that require outside counsel, it's unknown at this time, but there's going to be some expectation that their service is going to be required in FY14.
Okay, I'll open that up to any questions. Kim?
Ed, how much have we expended for each of those line items so far this year?
You know, in a rush, I forgot to pick up my status report. I just ran from another meeting, so I can get you that number.
Okay.
It hasn't required a transfer yet, so we're living within what has been appropriated to date. I would probably say a transfer will be required. To which one, I don't know, and to what extent, I don't know, but
That's fine.
As long as we don't get a $60,000 transfer next week, otherwise your credibility is gone, so let's be mindful of that. Do we have any other questions on this? I mean, it does look like a thin budget, and I know some of it is simply the budget itself, but I'm not getting that vibe from you, Ed, that we're under incredible pressure to keep this number down from a budgeting perspective. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we have a town manager requested budget of $135,000 for law department. You have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you. Okay. You know what? We've got Andy here. Ed, we had talked earlier about the solid waste. And I don't want to keep Andy here any longer than necessary. I know Jim couldn't make it tonight. He's under the weather. Can we talk about what's going on with solid waste? We're not sure if we're going to vote on it tonight. Maybe we will. But while we have
Okay,
Andy here,
sure.
we can talk about it.
we provided a cost analysis to you in your budget book. And that shows roughly $190-some-odd-thousand of expenses that are exceeding revenues currently. As a result of that, we sent it to Solid Waste Committee for a review and recommendation. They have sent to us their recommendations, which actually, I believe, reduces our recommendation of a 20% increase to roughly a 10% increase, Andy? That recently came to me, and it has not gone before the board yet. We wanted to discuss this matter with the Health Director, Andy Pelletier. The rationale to reduce that was based upon the fact that the municipal facilities have trash bins, dumpsters, so it's municipal-generated trash. That is part of that calculation. That comes into play in terms of tonnage. And their estimate was based upon the capacity of each dumpster. So they're using an estimate. We believe, and I had some discussions with Andy, and philosophically we understand where they stand on this and willing to discuss it and modify it to the extent that we can. But we need to have that discussion with Andy and Solid Waste before it comes back to the board. Our argument is those dumpsters are not at 100 capacity every week when they're dumped. I would argue that those dumpsters, especially in the school facilities, which are the major component of municipal trash, are not being utilized from beginning of June or middle of June until they go back to school. So we believe that's inflated. We need to have that discussion with them and maybe to modify that somewhere between what we are recommending and what they are currently recommending at 10%. It has to go before the board. It's not going to change the expense side of the equation. It will change the revenue side of the equation. But we believe that we have the ability, and the House numbers were just released today, and I can get into that, that we have some flexibility in the cherry sheet state aid, and maybe as well as motor vehicle excise tax, which came in a little stronger than we expected. That would allow us to back off of that 20% and make up that difference through other general fund revenues.
Okay, so we're looking at the expense side only right now.
Right.
Which is a little bit of blinders from what you're...
I think what we'll do is we will modify the revenue side when we present it to town meeting. We believe we can make it work. Although I'm not pleased with the house numbers that were released today, and we can get into that. It's slightly above what we're receiving this year. The governor's numbers provide an additional $800,000 of Chapter 70. This provides roughly another $60,000 of additional revenue. So it's almost at a break even. We did have a 2% reduction in state aid. I feel comfortable now that the House numbers are out, at least maybe we can level fund state aid, which is gonna free up another $199,000. And I don't wanna spend that $199,000 in its entirety until the state budget is final, because we always have the ability to make that correction at the fall town meeting. Because certainly there may be a tug of war. Governor's not going to support the House transportation bill. State he's going to veto it, so there may be some politics involved as it applies to the budget as well, so.
But what you're saying is we could have an upside of a couple $100,000 we're pretty comfortable with at this point in time. Which does lead to what happens on town meeting floor, with that being somewhat known. Now, the motor vehicle, which you're being a little stronger, is that's truly offsetting?
Well, we have to wait for
Deficit was in.
the second and third commitment to come in to truly gauge if there's growth.
Yep.
Not only in the first commitment, but continued growth, or whether that's going to slack off or level off. Right now, we're in a positive position in terms of commitment number one. But like last year, when we went to town meeting, we showed excess appropriation unobligated because the budget wasn't final then, and we made the correction at the fall town meeting. So what we would show is a portion of, if we do decide to compromise somewhere in between 10 and 20, it may require an adjustment of $50,000 instead of $100,000 if we met at 15%. That's still going to leave $140,000 available if cherry sheet revenue comes in flat.
Okay. Given those statements, then I guess we can move forward with a vote on the expense side of solid waste, which is the budget presented in front of us, unless you think there's some other reason we should hold this.
No, the expense side, regardless of what decisions we make on the fee side, it's not going to impact what you're voting on here. Now, I know the revenue comes into play in terms of netting out expense, and right now we have that trash fee revenue based upon a 20% increase. So we're going to have to come off that, but like I said, we have the ability to offset that, at least against the cherry sheet revenue that we now believe, at worst case scenario, will be level funded.
Okay. Yeah, and it's unfortunate Jim's not here to offer any comment on the expense side of things, and I don't know if there's anything more to talk about on that. But, you know, I guess if there's something significant that Jim might want to add next week, we'll reopen the budget as necessary. Once again, him being our representative on the Solid Waste Committee. Therefore, we have a town manager recommended solid waste budget of $940,313. That's a 1.38% increase over fiscal 13, or $12,800. Do we have any other comments or questions, or do we have a motion on this?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Pension and benefits. We have before us a town manager recommended budget for pension and benefits of $8,488,954, which is a 1.69% increase over the prior year. I guess what's exciting about this is it's down from the department request, and not too sure if Julie disagreed with herself or there was something more to this, unless there were just some later adjustments. Can you give us some comments on this budget?
Mr. Chairman, what line item are you referring to?
Well, the department request was 8.5 million, and the town manager recommends just under. Is there,
Oh, okay. Well, actually, we wanted to show the adjustment since the original recommendation was made.
Thank you.
And we base that upon our level of unemployment comp that we've paid out, because certainly that can change from month to month. So based upon the actuals, up until the point we made this recommendation, we were confident that the level of 50,000 would accommodate at least the current experience that we are seeing. I can tell you on the group health insurance, we received our rates, and I'm happy to report that our rate is going to remain level, no increase. But it is up $50,000 because there are some additional new positions in the school department that are part of the recommendation. So we fully expect that a portion of those individuals will join our healthcare plans. So if we were to have a status quo based upon our current enrollment, we could go with the 6.150 million, but we are expecting some additional coverage based on those new positions. The Worcester County retirement, that's an actual number. That number is provided to us by the Worcester Regional Retirement System based upon their every second year actuarial study. They amortize that to bring us in compliance with a funding schedule that we're on that puts us fully funded, I think within the next 26 years. Medicare, level funded right now. The exposure we have is roughly 1.45% of any growth in salary and wages. We believe that level of appropriation will meet the growth on the salary and wage side. And Medicare penalty, that is a new line item. As a result of Healthcare Reform Act, we have to pay a penalty for those individuals that were Medicare eligible. 65 years of age or older, we have to retroactively go back and pay a penalty for those individuals that were eligible and that were not on the plan at age 65. So that's a known number. In the healthcare audit, as part of healthcare reform, we have to do an audit every 2 years, similar to that of the pension. It actually looks at our employees, both active and retired, and looks at their life expectancy, and determines what level of OPEB we are obligated to. The Healthcare Reform Act also requires that we do an audit of those individuals that are covered to find out if they truly are eligible, as well as any dependent that is receiving coverage. In most cases, that results, we've actually done an audit in advance of the healthcare audit, and we've identified $150,000 worth of savings as a result of that audit. This is now a requirement. So we reached out and we got a estimate of cost, and that's what it came back with, $14,000.
Okay. Thanks for the detail. I'll open that up to any questions at this point. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we require our retirees who work past 65 to go on Medicare?
Do we require our employees to work past?
No, if they work past the age of 65.
Yeah.
Or still employed by the town to go on to Medicare.
No, no. They have
It's
to
an
be.
option.
No, they have to be retired.
Well, I don't think that's true,
I
but
think as long as they're active employees, they can be covered under our active plan.
Okay, I thought you, I was under the impression you could if you were still working.
I think the emphasis is on retired, 65 years of age or older.
Gave pretty quickly on that, Chris. That's not like you.
Well, I just questioning it. I thought there's a savings there. I mean, if you get people who are over the age of 65 off your health rolls, put them on Medicare, that's a savings. That's why I was wondering if we required someone who's past retirement age but still working to get on Medicare.
Well, someone's got to pick up the tab, so they go from a local appropriation to a cost that we have to provide through.
We're still picking up the tab, but
Taxation.
they're off our rolls. I mean, there's an age, there is a savings.
Well, the federal government is picking it up, and it's an increased savings on their end, so they have to pass that along to the taxpayers as well, so.
Gotcha.
Ultimately, we pay for
We
it.
pay for it. I got you on that. Are there any other questions or comments? Ed, Ian, go ahead. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
thank you. Who does the Medicare penalty get paid to?
It's Medicare, it's the federal
Goes
government.
to, yeah. Thank you.
Now, that penalty is a result of new legislation. We didn't necessarily get our hands slapped, right?
Yes,
It's
it's,
new legislation. So the penalty piece is really based on new, to me, penalty is, okay, we screwed up somewhere, we're paying a fine or fee on us. That's a little misleading. It's just basically what they're calling
it dates
a
back
look
to
back on
the
it.
eligible
Yeah.
date.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Any other comments? Kim, Mike? Good? Okay. All right, then, we've got a town manager recommended budget. This is for pension and benefits, $8,488,954, a 1.69% increase over prior year. Do we have a recommendation?
Make a recommendation?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Ed, thanks for the explanations, appreciate it. I believe that covers all our budgets. We do have the CIP we were going to discuss, and I think what we'll do is, if there are any questions, or Ed, any comments from you on the CIP, but we'll basically bring that up next week in terms of, we're going to take care of that, and town meeting warrant recommendations. Also on the agenda is the school superintendent wanted to come back in relative to follow-up questions on the middle school project that we had for her. So I don't know if you had anything else on CIP.
No, I think we went over the CIP earlier in the process.
Right.
And we decided to hold off on any action on the CIP, because I think you wanted to discuss potentially CIP matters with the departments as they came in.
Correct.
So there's no change in the CIP.
All right.
So I don't know if the Finance Committee would like to act on that tonight, or they want to wait till next week.
Yeah, I think we had talked just briefly on this, and I think we're going to hold off on that and give committee members a little bit more time to take a look at that. With these changing numbers at this point in time, do you have any expectation we might have a changing bottom line to hit for next week?
I had the Chapter 70, and I don't have all of the state aid numbers. I just have the two key components, Chapter 70 and local aid, unrestricted government local aid. I can tell you on Chapter 70, just give me 1 second here.
Sure.
FY14 House Ways and Means released today would give us an additional $58,625 above and beyond what we receive in the current fiscal year. Now, I'm a little disappointed by that number. Certainly, we knew that there was a growing deficit in 13, and expected that there would be some limited growth in those areas, if any at all. The governor's numbers provided an additional $883,000. So it's so far apart, and that's what we cautioned the Finance Committee early on. We couldn't even go with a portion of the 883 because it was contingent upon an income tax rate hike of 1%. Certainly, this number is based upon no tax hike commitment, other than what has been provided in the transportation bond bill of a gasoline tax of 3 cents per gallon hike, as well as some cigarette tax hike of $1, and some computer design taxation, which is unknown, but it is a new tax. So we projected a 2% reduction in state aid, which equated to roughly about a $200,000 reduction over current fiscal year. Without knowing the other values of the cherry sheet line items, and there are some big ones, there's school choice and there are other ones, we can't commit any of this money at this point in time to the bottom line. So hopefully, in the course of the next couple of days, we'll receive the entire cherry sheet, and we will examine it to see what the bottom line is, because our assessments could be going up, or some of the line items in the budget could be reduced, or it could be increased, but we have to see how it shakes out.
Okay. So at this point in time, between the 56.6 thousand and the 196,000 that we had planned down, we have a net upside of about $250,000, give or take.
And an increase in local aid by $34,240.
Okay.
Excuse me, how much was that number again?
$34,240.
Thank you.
So,
Now, I can tell you, the net gain in Chapter 70 and local aid, unrestricted, could be absorbed by other increases in the cherry sheet. So I don't feel comfortable earmarking any portion of that at this point in time. What I can say is that at least that we have another set of numbers, and it's on the positive side of at least what we're receiving for cherry sheet state aid. I feel more comfortable saying that we can at least revise our projected cherry sheet state aid to a level funding, and that's going to change the revenue by about $199,000. And that's where we will have some wiggle room in terms of solid waste if we fall somewhere in between 20 and 10% to absorb a portion of that. Listen, we don't want the consumer, the residents of this community, to pay any more than they have to fund the collection and disposal of solid waste, but we want it to be an accurate number. And so, certainly the number provided by Allied Waste for our municipal facilities is inflated because they're assuming that those dumpsters are filled at capacity every time they're picked up. And we know they're not. And we know, once again, the schools are in session from middle of June till September, so those dumpsters are not being filled like they would be when the kids are in school. So we want to have that discussion with solid waste. I want to have that discussion with Andy, and I believe it's going to fall somewhere in between 10% and 20% that we originally recommended.
okay.
And I think Jimmy will be valuable, Jimmy Bonifico will be valuable, a part of having that discussion.
Is that something we'll have some additional info by next week, or is that a couple, 3-4 weeks down the line?
Well, I was hoping that the chairman of the solid waste committee would be available tonight to have that discussion, but apparently she had a commitment. So we'll try to at least get her in and talk about it over the course of the next week.
Okay, good. All right, Sharon had handed out to us a draft of the town meeting warrant. And we'll be going over this next week, but I just wanted to make sure that we kind of had a focus on those articles that are financial related. I think Articles 1 through 10 are pretty standard. 11 is a Medicaid article. The number changes around on us a little bit. And most of the rest, basically, we've got some involvement, except for a couple of street administrators.
Street layouts.
Yep. Okay. So we'll need to take a look at most of this, and hopefully we'll get through it in an orderly fashion. As always, if you have any questions looking at this and want to reach out to Ed during the week, if nothing else, maybe it moves our meeting a little quicker. I encourage you to do that. That's fine, because I have a funny feeling we're going to have a pretty full meeting next week regarding finalizing CIP, going over these warrant recommendations, and we'll be talking to close to 30 of them, and the school superintendent coming in one last time. So just FYI, that's most of our agenda for next week. So unless there's any other comments that are budget-related or even warrant-related at this point in time, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you.